All right, everybody, welcome to the Smart Money Closing Call. My name is Jacob Gabbard from Invest with Jacob, and apologies, a couple minutes late today. I'm working on a very important project, and some of you saw it this morning. It's called Squeeze Sniper. Excellent trading day on that today on the new version, by the way. And anyway, got distracted, so a few minutes late today. But welcome to the closing call. Smart Money Closing Call. We do this every Monday through Thursday, 3:55 p.m. We go over the NASDAQ futures, the S&P futures, and two stocks of your choice, the first two that get in. And then if anybody else wants one and you really need to see it, you can super chat that in there, and I'll be happy to do it. Otherwise, you get the first two that are in, and it looks like we have Has and Uber in today for those requests. Big earnings after the bell. We will check out Google and Tesla. They are both reporting earnings probably as we speak. We'll check those out in just a minute to see how they are reacting. I'll probably be able to tell simply by looking at the bar on the screen if it starts to move. Okay, so we had a breakdown yesterday that kind of got right to an equal low, and then they moved up. Off of that, I talked to my room about that. I talked to you guys, I think, yesterday about that the structure is pretty ugly to the upside on the NQ and now the ES. I would expect them to swipe this low on the ES, which is at about 74.70. What is it? 74. 73 exactly. Now that doesn't mean they can't go a little higher. There's actually an ABC set up towards 75.85 today, and the bulls are at the critical junction point of 75.50. And you might say, why 75.50? If we go down to a smaller chart, there's top and bottom of the pivot, 75.33 roughly and 75.50 roughly. Those are both rough numbers. You can see right here 75.50 interacts today with it. Yesterday, or that's today as well, they got above it and back below it. This was also today. So they got into this zone several times. Yesterday, they failed at this zone, and on Friday, I believe, or Monday, they failed at this zone. If you go back a little further, they come into it right here and bounce it off of it. They come into it a couple times over here as well. Very heavy interaction with that zone. That's the top of the bullish pivot area. The bottom is 75.33, which is this lower line right here. Again, heavy interaction with this zone. They came into it and failed here, came into it and bounced here, came into it, failed, and then got above it here, failed off of it there, failed off of it there, failed off of it here. So heavy interaction, also this major low right here. So the bottom and top of the pivot go across there, and that's what we're looking at in general. So 75.33 to 50, they stayed most of the day in that zone. They got above it slightly and then pulled back. But you do have this bigger ABC, although it's starting to look pretty ugly as well. And very often when you have these types of structures, they fail. And they fail to the downside and make a new low to build off of. 75.85 would be the target, which is this area of support over here that they would be coming back into. So as we look and see how they react today, coupled with how Google looks, I do think that we could see a little bit of downside here after hours and into the morning. Remember, after hours on earnings is an indication of what can happen, but also is a bit misleading sometimes. You can see a big drop in the market, and then the next day it's green, or vice versa. You see that the market is green early on and then a big drop overnight. So take what we're about to see in the earnings with a grain of salt until you see, they have their call at 5, which is another catalyst, or whatever time they have it. And then you have the overnight trading, which kind of digests it and really sinks in what they're going to do with the market. At any rate, I would expect them to take out these lows to complete the triangle. The triangle is still our primary count. It has not changed, and it is really playing out actually pretty well overall. Triangles are 5-wave structures, but they're all 3-wave movements. So they're an A, B, C, D, E movement. And off of this high, you would have A down, B up, C down, D up, and then A, B, and C of E. So we would count this as B of E, and then C of E down towards the 74.22 area. 74.50, 74.22, any of these zones is fine, as long as it holds above this low, preferably above 74.22, and then we would look for the bulls to try to take out. So, and go higher. So the triangle is continuing to play out. They can be slow structures, obviously, as we've seen. This has taken a little while to play out. and then we would look for the breakout from there. Now, if they do lose 74.22 to the downside, that does open the door to us playing out a bigger pattern to the downside towards 72.50, our lower level support. So you have 72.50 all the way down to 71.80, and that's going to be the 1.0 target, as well as this major consolidation zone. This is the only place on the way up that there was any consolidation at all. The rest of it was all straight up. So this is going to be a major support area that should produce at least a bounce, if not a run back to the highs. If they do break down, this would be an area I would look to buy, assuming we get a little bit of structure here. We don't just buy because they get to the area. We want to see a little bit of this, and then we can, set the low wherever they set it, and then look for them to run it at least back up, on a halfway retrace or all the way to the highs. It would be a pretty good looking place to buy along. But that's what we're looking at right now. Tons of chop, tons of sideways action. Not a whole lot to trade in here other than day trading, which we did well on today. If you didn't watch the live stream, go check that out. Very good live stream today, which broke the Wednesday curse. Wednesday's been tougher. So that's the ES looking to fill out this triangle, and head up is the major, or the primary count, not the major count, the primary count. On the NASDAQ, little different. They made a low, but then off of this low, this is a pretty ugly move back up. So I do expect them to come back down and potentially take out that low into this box that we've drawn. The bottom of that box is the same consolidation zone that we saw on the ES over here. Again, the only place on the way up that they consolidated at all and built any support whatsoever. They built structure up here at the top and over here, but I'm talking about from the low to where they got up to. This is the only place that they had any structure whatsoever. So if they do break down, we could see them fall all the way to the bottom of this box. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be more like they swipe this low and then go, if they're going to go. But it's a pretty ugly structure on NQ. They had a chance here. They gave us a new low right here, which would have reset the count to 4 being right there, and then give us 5 up, which would have been nice, but this bounce has been ugly. So it does look like this is A of 5, B of 5, then we'd look for C of 5, and then back up. The 1, 2, 3, 6 here at 27,790 with the 100-day moving average, or 50-day moving average. No, 100-day. Sorry, the 100-day moving average right there would be an interesting place to see them come down into. So it does look like they're pushing down a little bit again off of the 8. They've been unable to get through that on the NASDAQ. Before we jump into your requests, one, let's see if we got any questions. No questions. Manser, welcome. R. Smith, welcome. Debbie, welcome. Mythpaul, welcome. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go look at the earnings calls real quick and see if anybody's out. Tesla usually is pretty quick. They are post down $10. They're down 2.5%, 3% so far in the post. They have broken this low that we talked about in my call today. So that can open the door down to this low right here at 338 on Tesla, just an FYI. Now this is, again, post-market. There's a very good chance they can take out this low right here. They can pull one of these numbers and do this by morning. But the initial read on Tesla is down. And on the, who was the other one? Google, the Googles, let's see if they're out yet. Doesn't look like they're out yet. They're only down 0.5% here and counting. So I would say they're not out as of yet. So let's do the other two that you guys requested, and then we'll come back to look at Google and see if it's out and see what Tesla looks like as well. Let's see. You guys said HAS, has, and has nots. Oh, Hasbro. Huh. Funny. My grandma worked at Kenner, which I believe was bought by Hasbro, and I was so lucky as a kid. If you're a Star Wars fan, like me, because I grew up in that era, and my grandma worked at Kenner Toys, we had every Star Wars toy ever made because she got all the samples. It was pretty awesome. I wish I would have saved them all in their package and kept them like a nerd, because then they'd have been worth a lot of money to you other nerds. But I didn't do that. I'm not that smart, and I like to play with my toys, so didn't do that. But I had all of them. It was pretty cool. I was pretty lucky. So on Hasbro, it looks like it's completed its 5-wave cycle, and it's a pretty good one, pretty solid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you have this giant A, B, and then C truncates here. So what I could view this as, I you view this, okay, there's a hump in here. This is the weekly, so it's a big chart. So I could view this as a very extended C wave. Happens a lot, A and B and C. And then A, B, and C of B, potentially. However, did they make a new low here? It's really close. No, they did not. So this is still the low. So it's certainly possible that this C wave was playing out and truncated on the fifth wave. You can see they have 3 of 3, 4 of 3, and then 5 truncates. It actually gets a little lower, but truncates in the sense that it doesn't hit the target. It's a lower fifth, but it doesn't make the 1.0. It does get to the 764, and that's a valid secondary target. So it is possible that they're trying to build a bullish structure on Hasbro. That wouldn't be my favorite thing off of this kind of structure. But you do have a potential here to start. Let's see what they got for fibs. My dog is snoring so loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So you have a 1, 2, then they hit the 1.0 and held. That's good. And then 3. So they could be building. They need another high up towards 110 plus, probably up into these highs. If they can make another high here, they could be building a bigger long-term structure, and then I'd expect them to reject down towards this 80 number again. So they could make another high between 110 and the highs here. That's what I would be looking for if I was bullish. If I was bearish, I would be counting this as a B wave flat and then look for C down. So those are the two options you have. And right now, the bullish guys are trying to play this out. It looks like a little more than the bearish. This is not the greatest bearish structure I've seen to the downside on the bigger scale. So you could call this, if you're bearish, you're really hoping that this is A down and then A, B, and C in a flat for B. And then you're looking at this potentially turning into the C wave down. Now, it doesn't look great so far, but it is the weekly chart. Let's go into the daily and look real quick and just see if there's a better chart on the daily. Right now, I would give the bulls a small edge because of the structure to the downside looking so ugly. But sometimes you miss stuff on the weekly because it's such a big chart. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty clear ABC, I believe. Into the 1, 2, 3, 6, and then they got back above the pivot. So this is a pretty clear 3-wave move here. In order for this to turn into a downside version, you're going to have to see a lot of diagonal structure playing out, and I just don't see that as likely. So I would give Hasbro a potential, and let me look at the bigger picture one more time because I want to see what kind of look I'm looking for here. What kind of look I'm looking for, that is a very wise thing to say. So this is 1. They did not get down into 1, 2, 3, and then, oh wait, 4 here. Yeah, still didn't get into 1. So, yeah, I would give them the benefit of the doubt to the bull side because they have taken out the 764 in the retrace. I'm pretty confident in that. I'd still want to see one more low, or I'm sorry, one more high to kind of solidify this 5-wave move. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I see that, then we would still look for a pullback and then look for Hasbro. And this is the weekly chart, so this can take a long time to play out. I mean, this can be several months even, and then you could have a 1 to 2 year pullback and then do that. So this is a pretty big pattern. Right now, I would expect them to try to push higher, and they need to hold. We'll do those fibs one more time so I can give you some key levels. Try to give you a good breakdown here. So they hit the 1764 and held the 1.0. Well, they held the 764. It's pretty deep here as well. It's not perfect, but it's certainly okay. They need to hold this low. If they break this low, then other things are working. You could see some kind of double 3 play out. There are other patterns Elliott Wave has that are more complex. But this low right here at 88 must hold. If they don't hold, I'm sorry, 75, not 88. 75. They are at 88. This low needs to hold. If they don't hold this low, they could have problems at 75. And Uber. We're still on the weekly, so let's keep that in mind. Uber came out at COVID. Good job, Uber. Way to come out exactly at the right time. So they've hit the 1618. This is actually a pretty nice looking chart. So if you want to see Elliott Wave play out really nicely, here it is. So you have a 1 2, and then they go to the 1 2 3 6. They come back to the 7 6 4. Not the greatest structure here, but they come up to the 1618, which is what you would expect. Back to the 1.0, and that's where they're at. So they're kind of at this crossroads of we need to hold. If they do, then we're looking at 120 next. So Uber right now is in a spot where if you were a gambling type or a aggressive type, you could try to take a long and say they have to hold really the 764. I'd say this low though at 60.86, but you could put your stop here at 67. Very little risk involved in that. If they do start to push up and look for a high of 120 off of 70 is where they're at now. So that's a 50-point upside. You could put your stop down here at 65, 5 or 6 point stop. So you have 50 points of upside, 5 points, 10 points of downside for, I'd put it out for a while. This isn't going to happen overnight. This is going to be like a potentially years-long move or a year-long move. But if you're looking for buy and hold, that's something you could look for. They did make a new fresh low here. So off of this low, if they can start building, that's what I'd be looking for. They needed to hold the 1.0. They're trying to do it now. Assuming they can get back up over this resistance right here at around 78 to the top being 80. So 78 to 80, if they can get through that zone, that's going to be a very strong resistance zone. Then they have a pretty good shot to run this back higher. It's got a fairly decent bullish setup though. The only part I don't like is this right here is kind of ugly. 5 of 3 is a diagonal, but if you look at this, it's 5 of 3 as a diagonal. They sell it off strong back to the origination point where they need to, and they hold, and then you'd look for the push back up. Now, I don't see evidence of them holding yet, so I would want to see them start to push up and get back over the weekly 21, which is at about 75. So I would wait for that, a confirmation of a close above that, and then you could start to maybe put in your low down here or put in your stop down here. But if they break this low, they're very likely to come down to at least 60 and see what happens then. Pelosi bought a lot of calls on Uber. Well, that makes sense. She knows what's going to happen before anybody else. They're probably going to mandate that you have to take Uber to work or something. Let's see here. Google, let's see if they've announced anything. They're usually at 20 after if they announce. They haven't moved. They've moved up about 0.5%. So they're just kind of going back and forth right now. Nothing too crazy. Let's see if there's any notes. Oh, they posted 288. Traders focused on Google revenue, AI, CAPEX. I don't know if that's good or bad. Today, volume. Okay, no, that's not earnings. I don't know if that was a miss or not. Doesn't say. Let's see if it's in here. Estimate 2877. They posted 288, so that wasn't much of a win. 117.07 billion was the estimate. And what did it say down here? Did it have the billions in there? Google fell 4.4%, 3.5. Google. I don't know. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff they make excuses about ad revenue and blah 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 and this and a whole bunch of things that I don't care about. What is this? Where do I close this at? Take me back to Google. Back to chart. There it is. Found it. Got to be smarter than the chart sometimes. Starting to pick up here on Google. Looking for a little bit of a bounce, or looking like a little bit of a bounce so far. Up about 1% after hours. But again, the after hours stuff is not to be taken too seriously yet. They're still going to talk about stuff. And it's just like the Fed. The Fed, right when the Fed gets ready to speak, the market moves, and then he comes out to speak at 2:30 and it moves again because that's another catalyst. So take it with a grain of salt for now. Tesla getting hit. Google kind of doing okay. They're not crushing by any stretch of the imagination yet. But they're green at least, barely, after being down 1.5% for the trading day. All right, guys, that will wrap up today's call. Today is only Wednesday, so we will be back tomorrow at 3:55 p.m. to do it again. I try not to be late. That was my fault. I apologize for that, but I do appreciate everybody being here. Hopefully you guys got something out of it, and we will see you